In this slideshow, we will be discussing critical thinking and problem solving. So exactly what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is an active and deliberate process. It's the process of digging deeper and trying to understand and evaluate information. Critical thinking means that we think about things that we would usually accept at face value, or we simply accept that information to be true and accurate. It's a skill that can be practiced and developed and improved over time. So let's look at an example. Let's imagine that you're a manager or a supervisor working for a company, and one of the people working under you or one of your subordinates are always late. So usually you would just accept this information at face value. The person is late and therefore the person must be reprimanded. Somebody that's a critical thinker would go and evaluate this information and ask themselves, why is this person late every morning? What is happening in their lives that's causing them to be late? Or are they simply just being lazy? Or is there other factors that's influencing them for being late every day? This is just a simple example of what it means to engage in critical or active thinking. So what is the role of critical thinking in the workplace? Well, first of all, it shows that you can evaluate information. In other words, whatever information is given to you, you dig a little deeper and you evaluate that information. Let's say, for example, your company tells you that production is down by 15%. Somebody who's a critical thinker would go and look at the statistics and see if it's really true and try and break it down. Secondly, it shows that you have the ability to make your own decisions. Once again, if we stick with this example, if you realize that production in the company, or let's say in your own business, is down by 15%, that means that it's up to you to make a decision to turn this statistic around. What will you do to improve production in the company? Thirdly, it shows that you can learn from your mistakes and grow. Let's once again stick with this example. Let's say you own your own business and you see that production is down. After evaluation, you realize that as the boss of the company, you've made certain critical errors, and that is why production is down. Somebody who's a critical thinker will learn from that mistake and adjust his or her behavior, and make the company grow again. So it's very important to have this skill as a critical thinker, because it helps you to recognize problems and overcome these problems. So what are the benefits of critical thinking? Well, first of all, critical thinking allows you to challenge assumptions. People that are not critical thinkers will always accept the information that's placed in front of them. Critical thinkers do the opposite. They challenge assumptions and see if these assumptions are true or false. This is a very good skill to have, because if you challenge information that's given to you, you're getting closer to the truth. And once you have the truth and you can start to evaluate the facts, you can make better decisions based on the information that's given to you. Secondly, critical thinkers are also very open-minded people. Open-minded people consider all sources of information. For example, once again, if you're given a piece of information and you start to evaluate that information, you might start looking for alternative sources on the topic. So once again, critical thinkers think outside the box, and to do that, they need information from all possible sources. A critical thinker that's open-minded also seeks alternative solutions and options to what seems obvious. So if you're working for a company, most people will choose the obvious solution that's in front of them, never considering alternative solutions or options. Critical thinkers always has more than one solution to the same problem. And that's why people are so impressed by critical thinkers, because they always have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. They're always willing to engage with a problem from a different angle. A third advantage of critical thinking is making better and informed decisions. Critical thinkers make decisions based on evidence and facts, not assumptions. Critical thinkers like structured and well thought through ideas. Critical thinkers also seek the best solution and not just the quickest and easiest solution. So once again, let's use an example. Somebody is working for a company and look at the facts and the evidence, would formulate a plan or an idea that's structured and well thought through, and usually this idea would be the best solution in the long run versus a quick fix. So for example, if you have a problem in a company and somebody comes up with a quick fix, that quick fix won't last very long. Versus somebody who's looking at the problem, that's gathered the facts, that's come up with a well thought through structured idea, and that would be the best solution. That would also be a long-term solution to the problem. So by now you're probably asking yourself, how can I become a critical thinker? How can I apply critical thinking? Well, there's some basic steps that you can follow to engage in problem solving and become a critical thinker. But in order for me to explain these steps to you, it's very important that we use an example and follow these steps throughout the example to illustrate critical thinking. So let's say, for example, you want to volunteer at a local company to gain some more experience. Sounds like a good idea. So you decide on a local company or NGO that volunteers. It's a volunteer surfing project that teaches surfing to children. So your friend hears about your idea and tells you that this is going to be a waste of time. And as soon as your friend has this negative reaction to your plan, you start feeling uncertain about your decision. So let's see how you can employ critical thinking and follow the steps through this scenario. So let's look at the steps to follow when it comes to problem solving. Step number 1, identify and define the problem. In this case, it's very easy. The problem is, will this project be a waste of my time? Step number 2, question your basic assumptions. Once again, in this scenario, your friend's assumption is that it is unproductive or a waste of your time to do something that you're not getting paid for. Here it's important to recognize, where does this assumption come from? And of course, is there any counter arguments or opposing arguments to this assumption? So for example, in our scenario, doing something positive and not getting paid for it is okay, because the goal is to gain life experience and to put it on your CV. Step number 3, identify as many solutions or alternatives as possible. This is where we brainstorm as many possibilities or alternative scenarios as possible, even if they seem irrelevant. For example, some of the options that you might come up with is to really just stay at home, not engage with the project, volunteer to become a lifeguard, or wait for an employer to contact you. So step number 4 would be to make a list of the benefits or positive and disadvantages or negative aspects of each option. So in layman's terms, we're going to pro and con this volunteering thing. We're going to make a list of the pros and a list of the cons. So for example, what would be the benefits? Number 1, you enjoy helping people. Who doesn't? You develop leadership skills. Number 3, spend some time on the beach. Number 4, practice surfing. Number 5, meet new people and make friends, which is, by the way, a good networking opportunity. And lastly, this is a project that you can add to your CV. In other words, experience that you can add on your CV. So what are the negatives or the cons here? Well, it's going to take additional traveling expenses, and it takes out 2 hours of your week. So we can already see that there's a lot more pros than cons when making this list. So step 5 in critical thinking is to make a decision based on the list that you draw up. In our case, we've seen that there's a lot more pros than cons when it comes to joining this project. Step number 6 is implementing your decision. Once you've taken a decision based on your list, there must be follow through. In our scenario, once we decide that it's advantageous for us to join this surfing project, it would be a simple matter of phoning the company, completing the enrollment documents or forms, and choosing a volunteer date. So in other words, we've decided to join the project. Step number 7 is to review your decision. So once again, if we look at the scenario that we've selected here, we've decided to join the project and we're actually doing it. Now we need to evaluate our decision. Was it a good choice after implementing the action? In other words, once we've joined the practice, are we enjoying the project? Do we get along with the people in the project? Is it really fun for us to help children? And here it's important to help to identify areas that might need improvement. In other words, once again, if we use the scenario, let's say we enjoy working with children, but we don't really enjoy surfing as much as we thought we would. So there might be some room for improvement here. And lastly, review might identify additional information required. So if we come back to the example, let's say that you don't really enjoy surfing as much as you would. So the additional information here is something that you've learned about yourself. Maybe you really like to help children, but you don't really like surfing. So maybe you want to do another volunteer project in helping children. Maybe you find out that you love surfing, but you're not really that keen on helping children. So you can see that the decision process or the steps that we followed here got us to a place where we have made a good and informed decision that we will join this project. And by actually following through, we can learn some more things about ourselves. So let's quickly look at some tips when it comes to critical thinking. First of all, avoid hasty decisions or quick judgments. In other words, stop and take your time to think about the problem. Do your own reading and research. Don't rely on others' assumptions. Don't jump to conclusions. Consider all the facts. Use multiple sources of information to form your own opinion and gather information. Obtain different perspectives from multiple people. In other words, speak to as many people as you can. For example, I often get first-year students in my office telling me that they chose this course simply based on what family members was telling them, and they never actually spoke to real professionals out there in the world. So obviously always get as many opinions from as many different people as you can. So what we say here is ask questions, then ask some more questions. Always question the information that you are given. I hope you enjoyed this video on critical thinking, and I will see you in the next video.